So my guest today is Juliana Rabi, a recruiter turned career coach. Can you believe someone would do something like that? She's worked for more than 15 years as a recruiter and part of the human resources teams in multinational corporations all over the world. She's been working remotely for the past 8+ years. And by the way, you'll understand more when I say this as the interview goes on. Remote does not mean working from home in Dallas. Now she helps professionals create a career and a lifestyle that makes them happier, especially with remote jobs. Juliana, how are you today?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Thanks for the invitation, Jeff.
You're very welcome. And where in the world is Juliana Rabi today?
Right now, I am in Lisbon, in Portugal. Sunny day here.
Lovely. Weather today is?
I don't know, but like almost 30 degrees or even more than that. It's quite hot. Yeah, summertime.
So I'll translate that for the U.S. audience. That was
I have no
Celsius,
idea.
by the way.
I have no idea how much is that in Celsius.
And where were you before this?
Before I was in Bulgaria, also in Europe, a small city called Bansko in Bulgaria.
The sun and fun capital of Eastern Europe, Bulgaria. Like I said, folks, I told you this was not about working at home from Dallas. So how did you become involved with being a digital nomad like you are?
Yeah, interesting. So I started working remotely in 2014, and it was not a choice at the moment. There were some internal changes in my company. So from one day to the other, my boss told me, well, you have to start working from home. You cannot come to the office anymore. And I was like, okay, let's see, how do I do that? So I started working from home. And doing so, I realized I could, organize well my time. I enjoyed not going to the office every day. I was more productive. I was having more time to spend with my friends and with the people I chose to. So I like that. And then I start testing out, like traveling for maybe a weekend and stay Monday and Tuesday working from somewhere else. So I start testing this. If I can work from home, I can work from anywhere. Then I changed the jobs, and my second job, I could also work from home. But then I was like, I know already I can work from home. Now I want to work from anywhere. And I wanted to travel more. So my main motivation to be a digital nomad is I wanted to travel more. And the way I found to do it was to quit my job and start my own business. But it was a long process. I was like 2 years in this career/life transition to, before I quit my job, to build up something that I could make money out of that I enjoyed, and that I could work from anywhere.
So I'm curious, I understand you made a transition 2 years after you started to work from home. So I'm just going to take a moment and pause. When you were building up to making the break, what were you trying to accomplish during that period of time that would allow you to feel comfortable making the break from your previous firm?
Yeah. Oh, there were so many things. It was a process. So first was my mindset, like, can I do it? Can I live the lifestyle that I want to live? Is it real? Is it dreaming too much? Is it achievable? So there was all those fears at the beginning, but behind that, there was my desire to travel more. So there was like the thing that was motivating me all the time. So I started doing some freelancer work to test out which kind of services can I offer out of a corporate environment, because I was working as a corporate recruiter for 15 years. So I was like, what else can I do with my life to make money, to be able to, pay the bills? So I start freelancing, resume writing, interview preparation, LinkedIn writing, things that I knew how to do, that I was doing already, but then offer them to people, outside of my formal 9-to-5 job. So I started doing some freelancer gigs, then I start having direct clients. So it was a process of seeing other possibilities, testing out things in the market, to start selling myself as, hey, that's Juliana, I'm a professional. I'm not I'm not only the one working for a company. So it was also a kind of identity change and a lot of personal branding in the process. And building up my business was like, wow, I never really thought about having a business. And I was not grown up in an entrepreneur environment. So this is all very new for me, but it was the way I found to live the lifestyle I wanted to live. So it was very intense, this process.
I noticed that you have a non-Brooklyn accent. Um,
Slightly, yes. Slightly.
where are you from originally that you picked up this accent?
Brazil. I was born in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, great country, and I'm not going to go down that road. So what you started to do was look at ways that you could earn money apart from your company. And how did you pick up some of this work? Were you working with marketplace sites? Were you just promoting yourself with friends and family? How did you get some of this additional work?
No marketplace sites at all. Up to today, I never use that. I start freelancing with one company in Ireland. They were offering the same things I was doing already, like resume writing, LinkedIn writing, interview preparation, this kind of service. So I start freelancing for this company. So they got the clients and they were outsourcing the service to me. So the company was doing all the market and client attraction, and I was doing the work itself. Then I also start having direct clients that knew me, that heard about this freelance gig and were coming directly. And then I start also doing my second freelancer gig, the same thing, resume writing, interview preparation for a company in Spain also. So I was doing pretty much the same thing into 3 different pillars apart from having my job. So it was pretty much connecting with people. The Spanish company, they found me on LinkedIn. They made a direct approach, like, do you want to work for us as a freelancer? The company in Ireland, I approached them, and then direct clients were just coming my way.
Fascinating. In terms of living outside of the U.S., and I'm not sure if you ever spent time in the U.S. because I'm hearing Brazil, Bulgaria,
Yeah, I
Lisbon.
did. I was
So
in New York like 2 months ago. Yeah, recently
did you
also.
work for U.S.-based firms as well?
I worked for an American company, yes, but the office was in Barcelona, in Spain. So I had a
Gotcha.
Spanish contract, but it was an American company, a cruise company.
And I was curious if you had a sense of comparative wages for people. Like you're working remotely, you're a freelancer. And thus, I was curious as to whether you had a sense of what compensation is like as a freelancer versus doing some of the work you do as a quote employee. And you may not.
Yeah, I'm not working as a freelancer anymore. That was in the transition. Now I have all my clients are direct clients, and I can't actually compare with the wage in the US, because when I was working for the American company, I had my 9 to 5 job. So it was, so I
Gotcha.
was not a freelancer, and I had the Spanish contract at the time also.
It's okay. I wasn't sure, but I had to take a shot at asking. So what sort of things should people be aware of in making the transition from full-time to the life that you're living now, where you live and work anywhere you want?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. First thing, I would say having clarity about what they want. This lifestyle, a lot of people mislead it and imagine that you're going to be on the beach all the time with your laptop, having caipirinhas, and it's not the way it is. So it's not perfect. It's still a life. You still work, you still have commitments, you still need to deliver results. So understand that this is a lifestyle with the good and the bad side. So it's not like a perfect life. So have clarity about why you want that, and which price are you willing to pay. As I said, my transition to build up that took me 2 years. Not everybody takes 2 years. It can be way faster. But for me, it was important to have income in a way that I didn't have to touch my savings or generate any debit. So I was like, yeah, I want to be making money and not touch what I have already. So I would say first thing is clarity. What you want, where are you at the moment, which are your short-term goals, your long-term goals, which are the options that you have. Do you need to start from scratch? Do you need to go back to university or do a technical online course, whatever, or can you use your background, your experience to do something, the same thing you do, but online? So check the options, see what makes more sense to you, and then create a plan to start implementing them. But it's not just start doing stuff without know where you're going, because then it's going to be a waste of time, money, and energy. So take some steps behind and define, what do I really want? And then start creating the strategy to get there.
What sort of surprises did you run into along the way during this transition or once you did transition? Um, I'm just curious what you ran into. Oh, that smile
Yeah.
tells me there have been a few.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking like a lot of people I met on the way that from the outside, they look like, wow, they have a very solid business. Oh my goodness, they're making so much money. Wow, this person's like an inspiration to me. And then when you get to spend more time with the person, like, person is still very lost. Like, he doesn't have an income for like months. So sometimes what we see, online on social media, on Instagram, is not the reality about people that are living this lifestyle. So it's important to create the basis. And sometimes you are doing well, but it's not showing that much because maybe you're just not spending that much time on social media, or you don't have super cool photos on Instagram. So there is a difference between what we see online and the reality that you get to know when you spend more time with people. This was one of the bad surprise, but I think like a warning also, like, do your stuff and don't compare too much with other people because you might not know what is going on the other side. Um, Also, another surprise is that, for me at least, because as I said, I didn't come from a family that was around this entrepreneur mindset. My parents are both doctors. They both worked for, the same job their whole life, and they got retired. So very traditional family and creation for me. So having my own business, it opened up a lot of things, and it's hard. It's hard. There are so many aspects of the business that you have to take care of. It's not only do what you're good at, what you like doing, but there are so many other aspects until you start delegating. But then you delegate, you still have to supervise and all of that. So having a business is a whole new world. And if you don't want to go through it, I think it's just easier to, find a remote job that aligns with your purpose, what you want to do, the kind of skills that you have, but then you don't need to take care of the other side because it's a lot of work. Apart from just do the job, run a business, it's a lot of things. But it's interesting. For me, it has been an interesting journey, this
Oh,
process.
yeah. I'm curious from a tax standpoint, do you pay taxes proportionate with how long you're in the country? Like, how does that work?
I am registered in Spain because I lived there for 15 years. So I pay my taxes in Spain. I'm still resident there. I pay all the taxes there. So this is my case. But digital nomads, there is this aspect, like how long they stay in a certain country. Normally there is this 181 days, which is along 6 months. So if you stay more than that, then you are considered resident in the country and you have to pay taxes there. But there are differences between countries, so there are some variations. So this is also something that whoever wants to be a digital nomad needs to think about and make the choice and consider all of that.
You betcha. I'm curious, and I'm going to go back now to the time you were an employee and you were working remotely. I'm curious, um, did you stay working for one firm? I heard you talk about starting to affiliate with companies where you could pick up side work. Did I hear that
Yes.
correctly?
Yeah, that's when I started doing the freelance gig. But my remote work journey as an employee, I worked for two companies. Two companies. Yeah, and then apart from that, I was doing the freelancer work with some companies that I associate, and I was starting my own business. Yeah, but as
Now,
an employee for two different companies in Spain.
now we're recording this during I don't know if it's the tail end of COVID. It depends on where in the world you are. And the U.S. is getting concerned and starting to do the mask conversations again. So who knows where we are in this process? But you were doing it, you were trying to find remote work during a time where that was not the norm. So
Yes.
how did you get these additional remote work jobs?
I remember a conversation with my father, like before I start working remotely, I was like, I want to do that. Actually, I was like, I want to travel more. It was always the thing. So I want to find a job that I can work from anywhere. And he told me like, this is not real, right? This is just for very few people. Like you shouldn't dream about it. That was years ago. And I still remember this conversation because that's what the majority of people were thinking. Like,
Yeah.
this is a dream. This is not real. So yeah, it was not the norm. It was not the majority. But my first remote job, as I mentioned before, there was some internal change in the company. So I was forced, let's say, to go and start working from home, not remotely, it was from home at the time. So I had to, there was some internal change in my contract. So I had to work remotely from one day to the other. I could not go to the office. So I didn't choose it in the first place, but very soon I was like, I like that. This works for me very well. And then I remember I also moved to the city later on, to the city where the office was, the new office, the one I could work from. And I went back for like a month and I said, I don't want to do this anymore. So the first job, I didn't really choose it. It was this internal change. And then the second job, I chose it. So it was actually my requirement when I was applying for jobs or doing job interviews. The first question I was asking people was like, can this job be done remotely or from home at least? And if the answer was no, I was like, okay, thank you very much, but I'm not interested. So it became like my main requirement actually in my own job searching process when I was searching for the second job. And they existed. I mean, not the majority, but I could find them. There was 2016 or 17, the second job. So yeah, they were less than now, but yes, they existed already.
It's interesting, folks, you probably figured out, when I worked in recruiting initially, when I started to record my content, I was employed by a firm as a contractor, and I would actually go to their offices, and I looked like an employee, I quacked like an employee, and I was paid as a self-employed individual. And eventually I moved to a location about 2 hours from New York, and initially I commuted a couple of days a week and then started to pull back from there, so that, it's more of a breathing room. And then we moved to North Carolina, where it was impossible to commute to New York. And I just worked remotely at that point. So I have that experience of pulling away from a firm, but never looking for something. I've always been, the entrepreneurial mindset of, find it, help it, kill it, find something, get the next project, do something next. So if you're giving advice to people about this lifestyle, and if you are giving them your mental checklist of things you would be looking for in evaluating situations, like, I'm the employee, the ideas come to my mind, like, what's the mental checklist for them that they should go through to evaluate whether this is realistic for them?
Yeah. What I mentioned about clarity also applies here. So understand what you want, what exactly you want, your goals, the options you have, what are you willing to do to get there, and then creating a plan. And this plan would probably include, if you are working at the moment, have a conversation with your current manager to see if it is possible that you keep doing what you were doing for the same company, for the same clients, remotely. And this during/after, I don't know, COVID times, that the times we are living now might be even easier because you probably worked remotely for part of last year, and maybe you're back now to the office, or companies are saying that you should be back soon. But in any case, this conversation is one option that we shouldn't ignore. So instead of searching outside, let's check inside the company if there is a possibility. And then there are ways to prepare, to better prepare for that, but this is one option. The second option, the second easiest one, is see what can you do, what you know how to do already, which kind of skills, background, things you can do with the experience you have. So instead of reinventing the wheels, just see, can you do what you do now remotely, or can you do something that you did in your past, maybe your previous job or 2 jobs ago, that you can do now remotely. So check what you can do in a short term. And the third option is, okay, I cannot go remote in my current job, or I'm not working, I'm unemployed. What I have done in the past or what I do now is, for some reason, one of those very, very few things that cannot be done remotely. So the third option is, I need to prepare myself, to train myself, to study something, to learn some skill that I can apply remotely. So check which investment makes sense to you, how long you're going to need to get the course or the learning done, and then some experience, and go for it. So pretty much those 3 things: check where you are now, check where you can apply with the skills you have, and then if not, then create this reality. But that should be the third option, because it takes more time to do that, to learn something from scratch.
That makes perfect sense, Juliana. And I think about people that I've helped, And it's not radically different than the model I work with when I help people with career transition. You
Yeah.
start looking at, what are my internal options? What do I need to know in order to do this? What don't I know that I should in order to do this job? Because many people have a fantasy idea of what it's like to do a career transition. And,
Yes.
you ought to talk to people who are doing it. So folks obviously talk to people who are digital nomads or working remotely and see what their experience is like, so that you're not surprised, because I'm sure you'll agree with this, surprises are rarely good.
Yes. Yeah. We should minimize them and do everything we can. There are so many things we cannot control, in this process, in the career change, in searching for a job interview. So it's better to focus on the few things that we can control and make the most of it. And then the rest will unfold as it will. But yeah, focus on what we can do and the actions we can actually take.
Now you're self-employed now. Versus an employee of an organization working remotely. And you have the pleasures of traveling when and where you like. You obviously have deliverables with different firms or individuals. Are you tending to work for one client, or are you more consumer oriented where you're working for multiples?
For multiple clients. So it's a B2C model. So I have different clients. Yeah, not only one, several at the same time.
As do I, by the way. That's the way I've chosen to approach it too.
Yeah.
And how do people communicate with you? What's the communications like for the consumer? I'm sure it's the same as mine, but the audience doesn't know how I do it. So how do you communicate with your clients around the world?
Yeah, so normally the initial contact when they want to know more about my service, how I work and all of that, it's via email or a direct message on social media, via LinkedIn, via Instagram or Facebook. So normally it starts from a text message or an email. And then in some cases, I do a discovery call. So we schedule a call and we speak via Zoom, and we, talk properly. We see each other on the video. And then if we decide to work together, then depend on the program, but most likely we're going to still exchange emails and messages and activities and all of that. And we're going to have regular calls from time to time. This is the most frequent way. And sometimes I have met the person in person somewhere that I was traveling, that I was leaving. And then the person knows me already, heard about my services. And then we go from in person to, again, back to the circle. Like we start exchanging emails, direct messages, then we schedule the call, and then we go to Zoom calls, and that's it. So it's a kind of job that I can do literally from anywhere, which was one of the requirements I had when I was creating this lifestyle. But I just need my laptop, a good Wi-Fi connection, and data on my phone as a backup. That's it. That's all I need to. Is it the same way that you connect with your
Very
clients?
much so. For me, I'm an aggressive self-promoter. So whether it's YouTube, my podcast, No BS Job Search Advice Radio, my channel on Amazon, people get to know, like, trust, and respect me, and find a way that they can message me to start picking up connections. I do market myself heavily on LinkedIn in particular. And becomes a way that, I was member 7653 on LinkedIn, back in the day. So I have lots of connections and lots of people following me.
Nice.
And even so, I'm not top of mind for everyone all the time. So I have to put myself in front of them. So they go, oh yeah, I should contact Jeff. Yeah, he knows what he's talking about. And that's a lot of what I do, is the self-promotion in order to, I give people a lot of information, because one thing I believe is people don't know how to choose a coach.
Yes.
Anymore.
There are so many options, right?
Yes.
So many options out there. And even if you go online, you find contradictory information. Do this, and then someone else says, no, don't do this. Do the opposite thing. So I understand that it can be confusing. And I also have a similar approach to what you mentioned, like share a lot of content. I also have my YouTube channel. I also, share a lot of content on LinkedIn, Instagram, because people need to know me first, and then they will trust me, and eventually they will decide to hire me. This is the program. So probably I offer like 20% of my content is paid, the other 80%, 85%, something like that is free. But I think this is the way to go. I actually like to share what I know. There is a part of me that enjoy. I understand it's marketing also. That's like a funnel. I understand that, but I enjoy the process. So it's something that I like doing most of the times. And I also had cases, you might have had something similar, but like people who said, I have been following your content for like a year. And now I decided to, I was like, wow. And then this person was like quiet the whole year. There was not even a single like in any post, but the person was, watching me, following me, consuming my content until they decide to make a step. And I understand that, because like a career change in any case, like to a remote job or to an office job, it doesn't matter. It's a big thing. There is a big impact in your, emotions, in your finances, in your family. Like being unemployed, there is a very bad connection in the society we live in. So everything related to career is a delicate topic. So I understand why people like, let me think 10 times before make this step. But I also I feel like very powerful, because I know what I do have a very big impact in people's lives. So I really enjoy this transformation that we can do in our position.
Me too.
Yeah.
How are you using Insta in order to draw people to you? And how do people find you there?
Yeah, so there is a small bio on LinkedIn, on Instagram. There is a small bio that you put some keywords. I put like career coach, remote job. So people, when they land in my profile, they kind of have an idea about what I do. And I share a lot of stories, more like the same way I use the LinkedIn stories, a bit of the backstage. So today, for example, I said my agenda for the day is 1 interview preparation session and 2 podcast interviews. I actually have another one after that. So I was sharing, I shared a bit the backstage, like my human side. Mm-hmm. And I share the same stories on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I like to share this more like Juliana as a person, as, a coach, as a, I don't know, having lunch, whatever, doing some personal aspects too, and quality content. So I try to use pretty much the same content on all the social media, because it optimizes my time, and because I ensure that, whoever follow me in one channel will have the same content. So yeah, I play a bit, but pretty much is the same content I share on the other social media.
What haven't we spoken about yet that we really should?
Oh. Okay, I want to say one thing. With this COVID situation, right? There was never a better time to start a remote work career. Like if anyone was thinking about it before, but not sure, hesitate and all of that, this is the time to do it. And it might seem obvious, but it's not, because the funny thing is that everybody now is thinking about a remote job, but then you go and you see a job offer posted today, and 2 days later you have like 500 literally people applied. So people get scared. It's like, oh no, there is too much, people applying for that. I have no chance. It's not for me. I'm not sure. I'm not ready. So go for it. This is the moment. Like there was never a time in our lives that companies were more open to remote work. Companies are changing inside. So the ones that were not remote, they are going towards that. And the interesting thing that happened in the market is that then the benefits start increasing, because it's like we want to attract the best kind of candidates. So let's be flexible in this aspect and in the other. So if the company is not offering good conditions, you can search for something else. So it's like, I think whoever is considering remote job right now is so powerful in this process, because there are options, there are more options happening every single day. You can negotiate, you can choose what you want. So especially if you're not in desperation mode, like, yeah, I'm working, I'm fine, but I want something different, or I don't want to go back to the office in the next month, so I want to start searching for that. So prepare, create a strategy, but like there was never a better time to do that. So in this aspect, I think COVID, let's take something good out of that. COVID helped companies to rethink the way they are. It's still a lot of improvement to be done, okay? It's not perfect, far from it, but there are more, way more remote opportunities right now than they were in 2018. So this is the time.
Where's been your favorite place to live so far?
I think I'll choose Spain because that's where I lived the longest. So I lived in and out for 15 years. So I kind of know the culture, the language, and people when I'm very integrated in the culture. But there was also the same reason that made me leave Spain because I was too integrated, too comfortable. So I wanted to to challenge myself in the process. So, but yeah, if I had to pick a place, I'm gonna say Spain because I'm more familiar with that up to now.
Thank you. Juliana, how can people find out more about you, the work that you do, the courses you have, everything?
Everything, yeah. So you should search for my name, Juliana Rabi. It's Juliana with one N and then RABBI. My website is www.julianarabi.com. I also have my YouTube channel. Every week I share new videos about career, job interviews, LinkedIn, resume, remote jobs, and all of that. So every week a new video people can follow. The channel also, I'm very active, as I said, in LinkedIn and Instagram. So yes, pretty much anywhere you can search for my name, and eventually Google will show me.
Terrific. Juliana, thank you. And folks, we'll be back soon with more. This is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter. And I hope you enjoyed today's interview. If you did and you're watching on YouTube, click the like button. Send me a message through LinkedIn, linkedin.com/IN/the Big Game Hunter. Tell me that you enjoyed the video. I like knowing I'm helping some folks. And if we connect somewhere, just mention that you saw this. I really like that. And visit my website, thebiggamehunter.us. There is a ton in the blog that you can watch, listen to, or read that'll help you. Plus, you can schedule time for free discovery call or schedule time for coaching. I'd love to help. Hope you have a terrific day, and most importantly, be great. Take care.